This lecture was given at the Institute of Psychology and Parapsychology. The title of this lecture is The Eight Horizons. The lecturer is Peter Goodwin. Now, what I've done here is to divide the 8 main survival urges, which each one of you has got, and also to some extent the plant and the animal world, into 8 distinct areas or drives. And firstly, I think I'd better define what I mean here by an horizon. An horizon is an urge towards survival. And what we're saying here is that there are many different types of survival urges which make up these horizons. And we're all trying to survive. Our bodies are trying to survive. Our bodies consist of cells which wish to survive. They have an urge to continue their existence. If a body is damaged, then it will replenish itself. If the actual cell itself is killed, then often the body will produce a fresh cell. So there is an overall cellular survival at the body level. But these horizons here, we're not talking about bodies, we're talking about you. You the being. Now some of you may think that you and your body are the same thing, and I hope at the time that you've done these courses you realise that the mind, the body and you are all separate identities. I had to laugh because on television this evening there was a vicar in London who had turned his church into a place where people could go who were suffering from stress. And he wasn't preaching religion, he wasn't talking about God, and all he was talking about was how people could relieve their stress. And when asked, was this not outside the field of religion, he replied that religion consists of 3 things: body, mind and spirit. And he said, if I can teach people to relax their bodies, then I stand a chance of reaching and relaxing their minds. And if I stand a chance of reaching and relaxing their minds, then I stand a chance of teaching them something about the spirit of man. And I thought, well, this guy's muscling in on my subject. His field is religion, and the field of the body and the mind, I thought was the field of courses of this type psychology. Although certainly parapsychology would be in a similar field to that of the spirit, but in a non-religious way. So what I'm saying is there is your body which belongs to you, your body, the way by which we identify you, because it would be a bit difficult to identify you if you didn't have a body, because you might know who you were, but we wouldn't be able to see you. You wouldn't exist in space, and it would be somewhat difficult to know who you were. So your body is a way of identifying you. And your mind is your thought patterns and your memories composing your mind and your memory. And the final analysis, there is you, the person. That which gets angry, that which gets sad, that which gets enthusiastic. That is you, which is separate from the mind and the body. And these 8 horizons that we're talking about here are the 8 thrusts of you, if you can distinguish between you, your mind and the body. And the first horizon is the urge towards survival of self. That is your own individual goals, your ambitions, your desires, your hopes and your dreams. Anything to do with you and self we put here on the first horizon. And these horizons, 8 horizons, can be viewed as concentric circles getting larger and larger and larger. So the more horizons that you are living on, the more drive and the greater your survival. But nevertheless, if we look at a young child growing up, the child is only interested in itself. The child is not very interested in other people. It is up to the parents or the adults to create an interest outside the self. So if you think of a young child just wanting to survive, just wanting to eat, just wanting to play, that will be an example of survival on the first horizon. And if you look at the adult with his own individual goals, his own purposes, his own dreams, his own ambitions, they would all lie on the first horizon for that particular individual, that is you. So if you can imagine these circles going outwards, we then go on to the second horizon. And the second horizon is the urge towards survival. You see, all these horizons are drives or survival urges. And the second horizon is the survival through sex, sexual urges, sexual interest, and also we include here the desire to have and rear children, family, the home. So one's total home environment, the male or female of the species, in one's immediate environment and one's children, all that forms an urge or a survival urge on the second horizon. And because during the day I quite often handle people here who've got sex problems, we don't talk about sex in the Institute because this is an old word, and you'll find through some of the other lectures that words themselves can set people off. And the word sex has a connotation in people's minds. It will produce laughter, it will produce revulsion, it will produce some kind of horrific response. So we don't talk about sex, we talk about the second horizon, 2H. And if you use the word 2H, then in no way will you upset people, no way will you stimulate people. So if you met two people here in the Institute having a 2H problem and you referred to it as a 2H problem, then you wouldn't upset anybody and you wouldn't create any interest, because you might just as well say a 1H problem or a 3H problem. You would know, and we would all know, you're referring to something specific, and you wouldn't be using words with any emotion. You'd be using a neutral word which didn't trigger off any emotion or any response in somebody, because there'd be no conditioning to the word 2H. Totally neutral. I talk about 2H activities. It means nothing to you. I talk about sex. So as I was saying, that by using these neutral words, we avoid re-stimulating people. You haven't come here to be re-stimulated. You've come here to become more aware and more knowledge. So after the second horizon, we come on to the third horizon. And the third horizon is the urge towards survival through a group of individuals, the survival of a group. This institute is a group. So I'm very interested and anxious to promote the Institute of Psychology and Parapsychology, and this is a third horizon activity. So we have a membership, and every member is an expansion of that third horizon. We're looking for about 500 members over the next 12 months, which means that some of these lectures will have to be held in hotels because these rooms won't be big enough in themselves. That is the expansion of my own and my wife's third horizon. This country is very weak. There's very little urge or drive for the English to survive as a nation at this time. We're vastly and quickly becoming disseminated into an international community with immigrant populations. Not that in any way we're prejudiced against that, but if you promote the next 50 or 60 years of England, we must end up like Brazil, being a multiracial society. And there's very little national urge or national concern. If you meet people from Israel, their education system, their religion, their feelings of nationalism are all united into one purpose, which is Israel for the Israelis. And you can see how a small number of people who have an active third horizon have managed to hold off at bay and in many cases defeat a population of Arabs, probably outnumbering them 10 to 1, because that third horizon is so strong. It doesn't have to apply to a nation. It can apply to a very small group of people. The IRA, whatever we might think of them, or however much we might feel anti them, they have a very strong horizon. And that is why a few, probably 200 or 300 of them, can hold down thousands of troops, because they've got a strong third horizon. Now, the third horizon has nothing to do with morality. It's got nothing to do with rightness and wrongness. So you could be totally wrong in your aims and your ambitions, but still have a strong third horizon. So that is why during a war we have the peculiar instances, take the last World War, of the Germans having a strong third horizon under the leadership of Hitler, and the English having a strong third horizon under Churchill. And both sides praying to the same God for a victory in the same battle. Obviously only one side could win, and both sides calling on God's help to win and hoping that, or assuming that the other side must be motivated by the devil. I think the logic of this, it must be an illogical situation, because all you're dealing here with is a third horizon, which is something quite outside morality. It's just a strong purpose which a lot of people believe in. Whether it's right or wrong is something to be considered on the higher horizons. And remember, these horizons are all going outwards in a series of circles. So somebody who has purpose and goals in life, and somebody who has a happy family life, and somebody who has a group around themselves, an extension, if you like, of the second horizon, is going to be far more highly motivated and balanced as a personality than somebody who's just living on the first horizon on its own. Because the third horizon supposes an interest outside self, whereas the first horizon supposes an interest in self. Many of the people I see here during the day who come here to have their personalities rehabilitated are only living on the first horizon. and they come in here with many problems, and they're mainly problems concerned with self. And if they can only expand their horizons onto the second horizon or to the third horizon, their problems on the first horizon would diminish. So the higher you go on these horizons, the more the problems on the lower horizons vanish. What I mean is if you have a happy second horizon, you're liable to have less personal problems. If you have a happy third horizon, you're likely to have less second horizon problems. If you have a strong fourth horizon, you're unlikely to have a problem with your third horizon. So the further you can go out, the less the problems you have with the lower horizons. The more you're concerned with an horizon, the more problem that's going to be to you. So let's look at the fourth horizon, which is the urge towards survival through all mankind. An example of this will be an interest in international politics. So the fourth horizon is not a group, we're talking about worldwide. The survival of the planet, the United Nations, schemes and themes concerned with the third world and the internationalisation and the living at peace of all man, all tribes. In other words, an amalgamation of the other third horizons. So this will be a theoretical concept of having a world government. That will be an interest in the fourth horizon. Now, the interesting thing is that if you have an interest in the fourth horizon, no one will ever bring about a solution to the world's problems at the elimination of the third horizon, because a solution to the world's problems can only come about by amalgamation of small groups. You can't have one world in this world or this planet Earth. There was something like 2.5, 3, or maybe even more people. And you cannot have just one amalgamation of 2.5 to 3 billion people. It's not possible. You can't have one man at the top and a command line going right out through all the individuals. The only way to solve the fourth horizon is to have the third horizon of each individual group already sorted out for themselves, and by agreement all those groups joining in the fourth horizon to form a big group. But that big group, that fourth horizon, must consist of an amalgamation of the smaller groups of the third horizons. So if you want a solution to the world's problems, it's no good trying to eliminate Great Britain, eliminate the United States, and eliminate Russia and China. You have to have an amalgamation of China, Russia, the United States, Great Britain, and the third world. In other words, a large group must consist of a series of small groups. And it would be destructive if you tried to eliminate the third horizons in order to solve the problem with the fourth horizon. It just wouldn't work. It would react against itself, and people would fall out, and you'd have a breakup of the fourth horizon. People would go back to this tribal group thing. Because man must have a group. He must also have an urge towards the survival of mankind as a whole, but he must have a group. Try to take away his group, and the fourth horizon would snap. Now the fifth horizon, and these do follow in fact logically on, is the urge towards survival through other life forms like animals, birds, insects, fish, vegetation, and also of course the conservation of the environment. If you think about this, if you'd solved all the problems in the world and man was living together, obviously one of the collective interests would be the amount of air we can breathe and the amount of plant life necessary to sustain that world population. And today we see a great concern amongst United Nations and international bodies with the environment, with the animal life, and with insects and fish and vegetation. Because it is obvious there is a balance between us and our environment. If you upset that balance, it could bring about our own destruction. It's possible to destroy the air on this planet so that none of us would have anything to breathe. So if we've gone as far as being interested in the survival of mankind, we must also be interested in the survival of plants and the interests of animals. And personally, this cat here called Plod, I like having her here because it reminds me that there are animals in the world and that we have an interchange between the animals. I like having plants in here because we also have an interchange with plants. It reminds us that the fifth horizon is a very important part of life. Now the sixth horizon, not always obvious to people why these things are on the sixth horizon, but the sixth horizon is concerned with the physical world. It is concerned with anything that is existing in the 3 dimensions of space and the 1 dimension of time. Our bodies are existing quite independent of us. Our bodies are existing in the 3 dimensions of space and 1 of time. And our bodies are concerned with the sixth horizon because they are concerned with their own survival. And anything to do with energy or energy fields or particles, anything of that type, the table, this tape recorder, all those things are to do with the sixth horizon. So if you look at your home as being something to do with the second horizon, your husbands and wives, then the furniture in the room and the actual mass of the house, the construction of the house, that is to do with the sixth horizon because it contains matter, energy, space and time. So anything that contains matter or mass, energy, space and time, which is all the objects, all the materials in the world, even the planet Earth, that is the urge of the sixth horizon. And if you think that the difficulty people are having getting a home together and keeping a home there and paying for a home, you can see that it is a fairly high horizon. An interest in property and concern about property and even money itself is the sixth horizon. So you see money, which is a solid mass, it's a particle, comes quite high up. So the ability to have money, to control money and to organise money is quite a high urge. It is not on the second or the third horizon, it is as high up as the sixth because it is to do with physical things. So building houses is a sixth horizon activity. Building cities and laying out cities is a sixth horizon activity. It's way above the fourth, which is the interest in mankind. It's way above plants and animals. It's quite a high level. People quite often don't understand money and the interchange of money, and this is because it's quite a high horizon. So this government trying to sort out the economics of this country has quite a hard job because it requires an exact duplication and appreciation of everything on the sixth horizon. Now, what do people do who have got money and wealth? What is the thing that they all get interested in? Can you tell me that, anyone? There's a subject which people get interested in when they've made a lot of money and they're rich and all their material and day-to-day needs are taken care of. What is the next thing that they become interested in? Religion, that's right, yeah. And that, of course, is the field of the seventh horizon. Can you see how these horizons are moving out and out and out? Yes? They're like concentric circles. So the seventh horizon is the urge towards survival of religious or esoteric ideas. It's not God or an interest in God. We'll go on to that in a moment. But the subject ESP, extrasensory perception, PK, psychokinesis, the subject of parapsychology, that is a seventh horizon activity. It is also the horizon for art, music, beauty. These are abstract things that you are not solid and material, because an appreciation of music is not a solid thing. It's not something you can put your hands around. It's not something you can see. It's not something you can touch. So the seventh horizon is concerned with abstractions, abstract ideas, concepts, esoteric purposes that are not specific and not concrete. So the idea of founding and setting up a religion like Moses did, or Jesus Christ, or Joseph Smith, or Muhammad, or Buddha, that idea will be a seventh horizon activity. You see, a lot of people think of religions as groups. They are. A religion to survive and to perpetuate itself for a couple of thousand years needs a third horizon, because if religion doesn't conceive itself to be a group, it won't expand. So the congregations of all the churches have a strong third horizon. They have a strong desire to perpetuate themselves, but they have a higher motivating force, which is the seventh horizon. But you see, a religion must have the sixth horizon. A religion must have money to expand. You have to have money for buildings and money for promotion and spreading the ideas. So you'll find the Catholic Church very, very strong on the sixth horizon. It's a very, very rich organisation with a lot of wealth and art treasures and buildings. It's a multi-million-dollar corporation, the Catholic Church. And if you look in the Middle Ages, how the Catholic Church raised funds, they sent people around to the various churches all over the world. They sent a guy who had a big chest. And in this chest, he had pardons for your sins. And you literally paid your $5, and the bishop would stamp his, take out his stamp and sign that this brought you so many pardons for your sins. And they called them indulgences. And you could, in fact, if you had a lot of money, buy yourself something like an exemption from 2 billion years in hell by just keep on buying these indulgences. And you could not only buy these indulgences for yourself and your immediate family. If you were very rich and you really wanted to do your own thing, you could buy indulgences for people that are already dead. You can get a complete pardon from hell. And this was the way that the church became rich. And the Pope conceived this idea because he had funds. People were investing in the church, and a lot of nations were taking away the church's lands. They said, well, we must raise some money. We must increase our sixth horizon. If we don't, our seventh horizon will collapse. They conceived of a way of frightening people about the seventh horizon, giving them so much fear that they put their hands in their pockets and they'd pay out for an extension of their seventh horizon. And this collected in millions and millions and millions of pounds all over Europe. And all this money was funneled back to Rome, where they built a city, the Vatican City, which was entirely funded on these indulgences. And you could truly buy yourself up to a billion years of free pardon for yourself and relatives and everyone else. And the money went in the box, back on the coach, and found its way back to Rome. So what I'm saying that you'll find anything that is to do with the seventh horizon usually has a fairly strong sixth horizon as a base. And as I say, ESP and all that type of thing, they're all seventh horizon, beauty, music, art, and anything that is above symbols or words. Now, a symbol or a word is something solid. If I speak to you, there is a sound vibration. But an abstract idea, you might be able to symbolise it, but it's a far wider concept. If you think of a concept as a funnel, and at the bottom of the funnel, there is the symbol or the word. If you take Institute of Psychology and Parapsychology, that is a system of words and symbols which conveys the idea to you, different things to different people, different types of psychology, different types of parapsychology. But at the top of that is a concept, is an idea. There's no mass, no weight, hasn't even got a place in time, an idea. It's timeless. It is something outside time and outside space. And everything to do with extrasensory perception and those subjects are outside time and outside space. And if you're totally absorbed with music or beauty or art, you're so taken up with those things that you feel outside time and outside space. And you lose track of time, and you lose all senses except that concept or idea which is absorbed and you're interested at this time. And all those activities are the seventh horizon. And the survival of an artist who wishes to expand art forms is a strong urge and desire on the seventh horizon. And then we come to the eighth horizon, and really, although the other seven horizons are in fact circles, the eighth should be viewed as an open-ended parabolic curve, which is a curve which is shaped like that, where the two ends are going out and never meet. Because the eighth horizon is the infinite, and in this particular institute, we don't define the infinite. And we find, in fact, if anybody else tries to define the infinite for you, you should have a word in our ear, because here the interpretation of the infinite is entirely an individual thing. We give you no ideas, and I will really talk about it, except sometimes I might give you some hint of how I see it. But how I see it and how you see it, even if our views are different, we are both right. Because at that level, on the eighth horizon, everybody is right. Even if you believe in nothing, you are right. If you believe in an old man sitting up there with a beard, you are right. If you believe there were 50 angels up there, all seated on golden thrones, then you are right. Because at that level, rightness and wrongness have no meaning. Because you're at the ultimate concept. And at that level, what is right is wrong and what is wrong is right. But you've got to get above rightness and wrongness. It's a pure abstraction of such depth that no one can define it. And when you start to define it, in fact, you disappear from it. So if you're starting to define the eighth horizon for yourself, if you're trying to understand it, then you are moving away from it. Because it is something beyond understanding. It is something, a pure perception, a pure feeling, if you like. And whatever you believe, you are right because you believe it. So your interpretation and your belief, because it is your belief and your interpretation, as far as we're concerned, that makes it right for you. It might not be somebody else's interpretation or somebody else's belief, and therefore they would be said to have a different viewpoint. But everyone is entitled to have their own viewpoint on the eighth horizon. So in the Institute, we don't permit anyone to try to force any religious ideas on any other member. Whatever your religious ideas, they are yours, and that is your belief and your concept. And it is right because you believe it. And if you change it, then you're also right. It doesn't mean that your previous beliefs are wrong, because however you see it, you are right while you are seeing it at that particular time. Because obviously it is something beyond space, it is something beyond time, and therefore it cannot be defined. I refer to it here as the source, if you like, the universal mind, the ultimate purpose, a supreme being, if that's how you conceive it to be. But certainly I will never attempt to define it for you, because the idea is to get you to expand on these horizons, and when you start to think about it, whether that is sufficient. Now, if you look at these horizons, the first, second, third and the fourth, you'll see that they to some degree reflect the fifth, the sixth, the seventh and the eighth. And in fact you'll find that that people who have who are very strong on the seventh horizon are there because they lack a second horizon. In other words, people who have got no 2H activities in their lives, they've got no families, they've got no sexual outlet, they could be inverted on the seventh horizon. They could be marching up and down the street with boards on their back saying the ways in a death. And they could be seen as just zealots. And in fact, they might have no understanding of the subject whatsoever. They could be totally solid as people, and they could be merely crying out for their own second horizon, or because they are misunderstood on the second horizon. And they could appear to be on the seventh horizon. So people can appear to be on higher horizons than they in fact are. Now, you take the first horizon. Somebody could be entirely selfish and entirely concerned with themselves, yet they could go around telling everybody that in fact they're very keen on the sixth horizon, for instance. But they want to create wealth for the world. They want to get together so much money so they can give it all away, and so on and so forth. So they could appear to be on the sixth horizon. So the sixth horizon has got nothing to do with accumulating money. If you think of the stories of the Dickens novel, and who was the guy who buried it all in the ground? What was he called? Scrooge, wasn't he? Yeah. Well, there's an example. That's not an example of the sixth horizon. That's an example of the first horizon. So the storing of wealth and the building up of money in the bank, it's got nothing to do with the sixth horizon. Sixth horizon is to do with flows and interchange of money. So the sixth horizon will be concerned with creating jobs for people, schemes for creating work for other people, for expanding organisations, the economics of organisations, not the accumulating wealth for personal use to stick it away in the bank. Investment will be concerned with the sixth horizon, but not burying money in the ground. So a lot of these horizons, people appear to be living on the high horizons, but in fact they're actually on the lower horizons. And it's almost like a harmonic. The first, second, third and fourth is like one set of keys on the piano, and then the fifth, sixth, seventh and eighth are like a higher octave of the lower horizons. So you can get people who are inverted on the horizon. You can get people who have missed out on the horizon. The only way to lead a balanced life is to be existing on all these horizons. And it's no good going around and saying, look, I'm going to set up a religion in this world. Everyone will give away their money. There will be no plants. There will be no animals in this church or in this organisation. We're not concerned with mankind. We're not concerned with groups. Everyone will give up sex. Everyone will live a selfless life. And this will be our new religion, because you've just taken away the first, second, third, fourth, fifth and sixth horizons and left yourself with an apparency of the seventh. So people who are fanatical about religion are not living on the seventh horizon, and especially if they ask you, in order to join a religion, to give up the other 5 or 6, and be suspicious, because they're not creating any urge towards survival in anyone. They just have inverted themselves on the seventh horizon. And you'll find a lot of fanatical religions about today which completely deny the other 6 horizons in the so-called hopes and beliefs of the seventh. So the important thing is balance on these horizons. And we've defined here the optimum survival solution of any problem. So let's suppose you've got a problem and you wish for a solution. If you look at these horizons and you say to yourself, now, how would these various solutions fit and apply to these various horizons? For instance, if I take that course of action, would that benefit the first horizon? Would that benefit the fifth horizon, the third, the fourth? So if you look at these horizons, you can work out what is the best solution for a particular problem by lining along these various drives. And I can assure you we've all got these drives. They're almost programmed into us. So to deny these drives, you'll deny your own happiness if you try to cut out these horizons. So the optimum survival solution of any problem will consist of the highest obtainable survival for every horizon. So if the solution helped on the third and helped on the fifth, didn't help much on the first, you have to look at the other solutions and see how they weighed themselves on these various horizons. So it is the best solution to any problem is the one which gives the highest attainable survival for every horizon, for all 8 horizons. It's a good way to work out the answer to a problem. Do I give up my life for my daughter, or is it best to send my daughter to a school and leave myself free from my own aims? What's in my daughter's interest? What's in my interest? To weigh up the various horizons and to come to a sane and balanced solution. It's no good giving up the whole of your life and eliminating all of your horizons, because you've got your own urges and you're only bringing about your own self-destruction if you do this. So if somebody's got a solution to the world problems, which means eliminate every religion and every group in the world, it won't work, because you'll be destroying the other horizons. Now, come on to another thing here, which is the potential value of an individual or a group. How do you define the potential value? That is the unrealised value, what people can do or what groups can do. We could say that this group has got a high potential value, but this group will be no good unless I consider all the horizons here. There's no good just concentrating so much on the third horizon that the other horizons are destroyed. So how do we define potential value? Well, the potential value of a group is the product. That means the multiplication of the intelligence and the general horizon strength. Now, you see, a lot of schools and education systems concentrate purely on intelligence, and turning people out with high IQs or turning people out with so-called native intelligence, it's no good at all if they've got weak horizon strength. But you can see somebody could be highly intelligent unless they had these survival urges. They will be of little use in the world because their potential value wouldn't be very high. You should take Winston Churchill. He was fairly dull at school, except in the subject of English. Yet he had tremendous survival urges on these 8 horizons. And that is why he became a leader. So somebody who had a lot of survival on these horizons may be a very great leader, and his intelligence may not be awfully great. In fact, there was a famous case. There was a criminal case recently where there was a bank manager and an architect and a surveyor, and they all got heavily sentenced by the judge on some fantastic fraud concerning thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds. And the leader of the group was a man who couldn't write, he couldn't read, he could hardly speak a word of English, and he used to mutter and grunt. But this man led all this fantastic fraud, and there were a lot of intelligent people there, because, for right or wrong, he had a tremendous urge for survival, pure survival. And yet he was fairly unintelligent. I think he had an IQ of about 80, the judge said. Yet this man has sat as a head of this most complex operation because he used other people's intelligence. He could hardly know the difference between yes and no, but he had people who were intelligent enough under him who he controlled. So the potential value is the product of intelligence and horizon strength. And these courses are designed to develop horizon strength. So we allow people on these courses without any qualifications, because we're not so concerned with their IQ or their intelligence, we're concerned with developing horizon strength. So if somebody's got an IQ of 80, and they've got a tremendously high number of horizons and individual horizon strength, then the total horizon strength, they could go quite far in life. On the other hand, you can have somebody who has a very high intelligence and not a lot of horizon strength, they could also go far in life. So it's a balance of intelligence and horizon strength. Somebody with a lot of intelligence and not much horizon strength, and somebody with a lot of horizon strength and not much intelligence could probably come out equal. So you multiply these two facts together. Now finally we come to the most important thing, which is a person's effectiveness. Now potential value is what they could do with their intelligence, what they could do with their horizon strength. You might have somebody who's a genius intelligence and has got all the powers of leadership, understands all about these horizons, yet he decides to put his knapsack on his back and go around the world. In fact, there's one guy, a chap called Lyle Watson, a genius biologist, an expert in parapsychology, and he had a shock in his life and he's not applied himself because he's got a yacht and he's just floating around the world from one island to the next. He's written a couple of books and disappeared into the wilderness. He's neglected his horizons, in my opinion, so his effectiveness is diminished. He's not writing books, he's not lecturing, he's not teaching. So effectiveness is what you actually do with the horizon strength that you've got or developed and the intelligence that you've got. So it's no good being highly intelligent and having tremendous horizon strength unless you actually apply it and become effective. It's no good me sitting here and not giving lectures hoping people will learn about the subject, because they won't. You've got to make lectures, you've got to put them on tape, and you've got to find some way of disseminating lectures and circulating them to tell people about these subjects. It's a very tiring and difficult thing to do sometimes, and I'll gladly sometimes like to be relieved from it, because I find that this third horizon interferes with some of my other horizons. It interferes with my family life sometimes, having to keep giving these lectures. So one's got to be careful here to balance these horizons up. But if one's going to be effective, then one's got to align the potential value, which you remember is the product of the horizon strength and the intelligence. You've got to align this potential value along these horizons. So you've got to sit here with the product of your intelligence and your horizon strength. You've got to put them together, and then you've got to disseminate them along these horizons. As many horizons as possible, And if you look at each of these horizons as having a temperature, you see. So here we've got 8 horizons. On each horizon there is a scale of temperature. So what you've got to do, you've got to get your potential value as many horizons as you can, and as far as along each horizon as possible. Do you follow what I'm saying? So you've got 8 horizons, you've got to get onto those horizons, and you've got to get your potential value as far along each of those individual horizons as you can, or 8 if you can do it. But having said that, what you mustn't do is unbalance the horizons by concentrating all your efforts in one end and ignoring the other. The funny thing is, you know all these mystical guys that go over to India and sit on a mat and meditate, and they detach themselves from the world. What they've done is cut out the horizons underneath them. And when you start to get a concept of the 7th and 8th horizon, whatever your concept is, you realise that what you can't do is go and sit away on a mountaintop. And I've talked to a number of, I've sat at the feet of a number of well-known mystics in the world, and I've talked to them. And I talked to one very well-known mystic, I won't say his name, and for 3 years he retired to a little shed in Switzerland and lived with his cow in his barn, because he just couldn't face the fact that he couldn't get across his message. And he was very developed spiritually. He could, move objects and do all these things. And he said, well, look, why should I bother to tell people these things when they don't understand what I'm on about? And all they want me to do is to move objects. They're not interested in my philosophy. He said, I became rather bored with the whole issue, and I retired to this mountain and lived there with my cow for 3 years. So I said, well, what made you come back? This seemed to be the ultimate thing. And he said, well, I realised that I was neglecting all the other things and other people. And he said, I realised that the more I understood about the 8th horizon, the more I felt I had a duty to return to the earthbound level and tell people about it. And he said, I realised that I might talk to 1,000 people and that only maybe 2 people will understand what I'm on about. He said, but I realised that if I can change 2 people, I've changed the consciousness of the world by 1 degree. He said, if I can change the temperature of the consciousness of the world, I've achieved my purpose, even if I only change it 1 degree. So I said, even if only 1 person understands a little of what I'm saying, it doesn't matter that the other 999 understood nothing. It's still my duty. And he said, I have an urge to communicate these subjects. He said, I cannot do anything else, because if I do stop communicating, I become depressed and unhappy. So there's a natural mechanism that is working there. In other words, he was saying that if you don't apply your potential value to the horizons, in other words, if you don't exercise a degree of effectiveness in the world, you automatically become depressed and unhappy. And you'll have to get back and do it in order to lead a balanced life. So if you've got potential value, which means if you've got horizon strength and you've got intelligence, you have no choice, if you wish to be happy, other than to become effective and align that intelligence and horizon strength along those horizons as far as along each horizon as you can get, to the degree that it is real to you, bearing in mind that you mustn't unbalance the horizon. It's no good getting stuck up on the 8th or the 7th, neglecting the other 6, because effectiveness is the alignment of the potential of value along all the horizons, but not at the exclusion of any one horizon. So you can talk about effectiveness on the 8 horizons, or you can talk about effectiveness on 1 horizon. If you're talking about your effectiveness on 1 horizon, you're talking about the temperature you've reached on that particular horizon. But what we're really interested in is your effectiveness along all the horizons. So we've got 8 horizons. We've got an individual urge for all of us to survive and experience each of those 8 horizons. If we deny it, we're denying ourselves. You can quarrel with these things, but these urges are here. Plants have got an urge to survival. Animals have got an urge to survival. We've all got the urge to survive. And we've all got an interest in these 8 horizons. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here if you didn't have some kind of interest in the 7th horizon. And we've all got potential value, which is the product of our intelligence and individual horizon strength. And we can all be effective, and our effectiveness is the alignment on any horizon of the potential value with the optimum survival along that horizon, provided we don't exclude the other horizons. So this is already built into you, and you can't deny it, because to deny it, you will deny yourself. So we want to see people on these courses developing their horizon strength, and to some degree developing their intelligent faculties, hence their potential value, and hence becoming effective and applying that potential value along their horizons. Thank you very much.